Everyone, thanks for watching. And this is lesson 2.1. This sheet isn't in your booklet. That's the first sheet of your booklet, but there's a few things to go over. First of all, that's not in your booklet. So I thought we could start with just a little bit of review. And I've got 4 symbols here. You can jot them down in your book if you want to, or you can just pay attention. So the first thing that I wanted to go over is the first diagram here, and it's showing that these 2 lines are perpendicular. And perpendicular means that they are 2 lines that meet at a 90-degree angle. And so the way that we indicate that it's a 90-degree angle is we put a little square symbol in the corner. So these 2 lines are perpendicular, meeting at a 90-degree angle. Picture below is a picture of an isosceles triangle. And there's a few things to note about isosceles triangles. First of all, isosceles means that this side is the length of this side. And if this side is equal to this side, this angle measure is also equal to this angle measure. So this side is opposite this angle. This side is opposite this angle. So the rule is if these 2 sides are equal, so are these 2 angles. Along with this third angle, remember that the 3 angles in triangles add up to 180 degrees. You're going to need to know that. Okay. This third symbol here is a line that's cut by another line segment. And if you remember that halfway around a circle is 180 degrees. Okay. So if this angle we labeled A and this angle we labeled B, you would know that A plus B makes 180 degrees. And we call those 2 angles supplementary. You may or may not have learned that somewhere. Let's go back here to this 90-degree angle because there's something else I can tell you about that. So if 2 angles add up to 180, they're supplementary. If we took a line and we took this 90-degree angle and cut it into 2 parts, let's say, oh, that's a pretty big line, and we labeled this part A and this part B, we could say that A plus B add to 90 degrees, and that makes these 2 angles complementary. Okay, whoopsie, what happened to my pen? Okay, and then this last symbol here, it's just showing 2 lines that are intersecting each other at this point. If these 2 lines are intersecting each other, we know that this angle is equal to that angle, and we know that this angle would be the same as that angle. So the 2 green angles are called opposite angles, and opposite angles are equal. So facts that are kind of important in this chapter that you may or may not have seen before. So that's why I thought it was necessary to have a little bit of review. Okay, so open up your 2.1 booklet, and I'm going to start at the top. And the very first bullet for 2.1, it says in your book, a transversal is a line that intersects 2 or more other lines, forming corresponding angles. So on this diagram here, we have 2 parallel lines. The black lines are parallel, and the way that we indicate parallel lines is we put little arrows. So as soon as we have these 2 little arrows here, we are saying that these 2 lines are parallel. So what's the deal with parallel lines? Well, parallel lines, by definition, are lines that are equidistant from each other. That means, and I know you know that parallel lines never touch. Well, why don't they touch? It's because the distance between them, no matter where you go, is always going to be the same. So you could have something that looks like this. Okay, those never touch, but they're certainly not lines. But you couldn't say here that the distance between the two lines is exactly the same wherever you go. So the definition of parallel lines are two lines that are equidistant from each other. Okay, so we've got these two lines here that are parallel, and then they are intersected by a line that we're calling a transversal. Okay, so a transversal is just the math word for a line that bisects or cuts parallel lines. I'm going to erase this. Okay. So we have some information then. If two lines are parallel and they're cut by a transversal, we end up with some angles. So here I've indicated that angle here A is created, angle C is created, angle B, and angle D. You could also further on and call this E if you wanted, call that F, call that G, call that H. Okay, I'm just listing alphabetical letters, but you can call them whatever you want. There's no really rule for how you're going to call these angles once they're created by the two parallel lines cut by a transversal. Okay, but it forms corresponding angles. So if this line is exactly the same line as this, isn't this line going to cut them exactly the same? And it does. So we end up forming corresponding angles. So we can say that angle A corresponds to angle B. Okay, so we would say angle A equals angle B because they are corresponding. We could also say that C corresponds to D. And because of that, they're exactly equal. Okay, so that's what corresponding angles are. We could also say that E is exactly the same as G. We could say that F is exactly the same as H. Or we could say F corresponds with H, E corresponds with G. Second bullet says other angles are also formed when a transversal intersects two parallel lines. Okay, so just like on the other page, we also can get A and C, D and B. Remember, A will correspond with D, C will correspond with B. If they correspond, they are exactly the same. Now it says which set of angles are interior. It means it's on the inside. So the interior angles are angle C and angle D because they're on the inside of the two parallel lines. Which set of angles are exterior? That would be angle A and angle B because they're on the outside of the parallel lines. Now, C and D do not equal each other. However, they do add to 180 degrees, as well as A and B add to 180 degrees. We'll talk about that in a little bit. All right, so the first example that you have in your notes there says, identify the transversal and the corresponding angles in this diagram, and are the corresponding angles equal, and how do you know? So the transversal, I'm going to go in blue here. So A and C, so line AB and line CD are parallel. They're parallel because of this little tick mark. This is what indicates they're parallel. So since AB, and we could write that, AB is parallel to CD, the transversal has to be EF because that's the line that's intersecting these two parallel lines. So the transversal is EF. Okay, what are the corresponding angles? Well, A will correspond with E. So angle A and angle E is a set of corresponding. D and H. B and F. C and G will be the corresponding angles. Easy peasy. And that's the end of lesson 2.1. So what you need to do is start on your practice. You have, it looks like, 5 questions to complete. When they're done, you'll come up and show me that you're done and get ready to write your quiz. All right, see you in class.